All right, cool. Well, let's officially get rolling. Welcome to another episode of TLGMMA podcast, episode number 22, with myself, Tyson Griffin, and our guest today, Jake Bonacci, and our audio specialist, JT, over here as well. Real quick, I just want to share how I know Jake, and then I'll let Jake give his backstory on how he got to where he got, and we'll just talk shop basically around strength and conditioning for mixed martial arts and what we've seen over the last 15 or 20 years. How long ago did you start coaching in MMA, Jake?
I think 15 years ago.
Yeah, so 15 years. So yeah, 15 years of experience. And I know Jake from Las Vegas when I was training in Las Vegas, Extreme Couture. He was my strength and conditioning coach and somebody who I believed helped my success go to another level. And mainly because he was really programming everything, and it wasn't just workouts, it was really strength and conditioning training. And from what I know, he was an exercise science major from one of the, big universities out there. So Jake, go ahead and fill everybody in, and even me, because I don't know all of your story, on how you got to coaching athletes and ended up moving to Las Vegas to be a strength and conditioning coach, where we did a lot of work together.
All right. Yeah. So I went to college, like you said. I went and got a bachelor's in exercise science, and I got a master's in exercise physiology. And at the time when I was getting my master's, I had to do like not really an internship. I needed like work hours for some credits. And I saw, being a fight fan, I grew up a fight fan, boxing fan first, and then MMA later. But I saw that Randy was opening the gym in Vegas, and I was calling and emailing them relentlessly, and for an opportunity just to come out and observe. That was my whole objective. I knew Randy was going to be training for a title fight, and I was going to try to come. I wanted to come out and try to just see what he was doing and learn and just see. And after several emails and calls back and forth, I was given the green light. They're like, "Hey, you can come out here if you want, donate your time. You can work for free. You can train our members for free. And you can kind of hang out and just watch." And I was like, cool, I'm in. Fortunately for me, I had an aunt and uncle living in there, so I could stay with them, so it was affordable. And I went out that summer, and I started training group classes for the gym for free for the members. And then I started working with Joey Varner first.
Cool, Joey Varner.
Working with Joey, and I don't know, I think he must have been saying good things about me. And some guys started coming over one by one, you being one of them. I remember when you came over, when I was teaching a group class, actually, I remember this very clearly. I was teaching them hand cleans, and you came over and like kind of feeling out the situation. You didn't know me, nobody did, it's like, it's this guy that was thrown there. I didn't expect anybody to, want to mess with me or anything. And you popped a couple cleans, and we talked a little bit, you walked away, and then shortly after we talked more, and then we started working together from that point on. And I remember that. And that's kind of how it went. I was just start working with one guy and then another, and I guess I did a good enough job to where people spoke positive about me. And then I worked with Randy for the Gonzaga fight in the summer of 2007, and that went well, and they offered me a job there after that. And then I had to go back to Minnesota and finish another semester of grad school. Then I moved out the following January, and I was there full time until 2013. So a lot of fights.
Yeah, a lot of fights.
Big team.
Yeah. I was trying to think of how many fights you work with me, and I can only imagine how many work with me and how many work with other people. And I think that was Randy when he fought Gonzaga. That was the official time somebody became the first champ, right? I think he'd already been the light heavyweight champ and then moved up to heavyweight and beat this young guy that was supposed to be this big, stud. And, the old man was supposed to lose. And the old man fucking came out there and did what he did. And I'm sure the strength and conditioning worked help because, take the kids to the deep water, like You know, you see with even Khabib and Conor situation, you know, it doesn't always matter how fast and explosive you are if you can't last. So
Yeah.
it's
So
that
yeah, that
kind
one went well, and they actually offered me the job the week before that. So it's not just because he won the fight. Actually,
right.
they offered me the job the week before, which was cool. But then I remember like 2 days later, I was driving through a cornfield in Nebraska. I didn't want to leave. You know, I'm on the ultimate high. I'm at the UFC and it's big win. And then I'm in my car driving through Nebraska. I'm like, damn it, what am I doing? I should have just like, forget the degree. Who cares? Yeah.
It's all
And
about
then,
balance, you know.
God, yeah, that was a downer. I was bummed. I remember to leave because it was, I mean, it was just such an exciting place to be, anyways, for
Yeah,
those years.
I mean, yeah, Vegas is crazy, but it's just the way MMA. I think that I always tell the people this, especially the fighters. MMA is the craziest sport. It's the highest of highs. It's the lowest of lows, and yeah, there's nothing that can compare to, you know, a culmination of all the hard work, dedication, blood, sweat, tears, hours of thinking, even just, you know, paying attention to writing things down, whatever it is, counting reps, you know, and like, and then just seeing it all actually come to fruition is like, it's a magical thing, you know. And some people don't realize that if they haven't been involved with sports or anything like that their whole life, but it's a really cool thing. And something also from a coaching side that I didn't learn until later as a coach, you know, doing it is one thing, but to help somebody else, it actually gives you a crazy different feeling. Like it's like, it's almost like you're doing it yourself, but it's actually better. And I'm just saying that from a personal perspective of somebody who has won the championships and had the fucking gold medal and been on the top of the podium. And then somebody who's coached people to get there themselves. It actually felt better to help other people get there for some weird reason. I never expected it, never thought of it. I kind of got forced into coaching from my injuries and was like kind of angry about it at first, but then I'm like, holy fuck, I didn't realize this was possible. This feeling like, holy shit, I can do this for hella people. And like, I don't even have to work as hard. Actually, I'm just, you know, I'm helping them, like, and I get the more reward emotionally. Like that's crazy. Like, because sometimes you can win the fights and still not be emotionally fulfilled. Like, you know, and it's the gift and the curse of the athlete or the overachiever that you're never satisfied. You know, it's never perfect. You know, like I'm sure you know that as a coach, you were kind of you went full circle, I imagine, with that as well. Like maybe a little bit more militant, as I was too. You know, I had a high school wrestling coach who was very militant, wrote down every practice and every workout. We knew exactly what we were doing, how hard it was going to be. And there was no arguing about it. It was on the board. Like we're getting it done. Like, and I feel like that's something that, you know, that really separates the coaches that are out there these days. What did you see in your time coaching strength and conditioning, and what do you see now with MMA being so popular, you know, over those 15 years that you were involved in? And what do you think some of the good things and some of the bad things are that are out there in the MMA strength and conditioning world now?
I think it's evolved a ton. I mean, from 2007, trying to find trying to find resources as far as, you know, how to do certain things, how to grow and how to evolve was very difficult in 2007. It was cold calling people that I knew through the chain, emailing people. Um, I did that with several coaches that were out there that I thought I could learn from, where I would just email them and some would respond, some wouldn't. But that
For
was my
sure.
greatest source of information.
For
Um,
sure.
Now and there wasn't the money wasn't really in the sport either for guys to really afford one. And I
Yeah.
was in a unique situation where you know, I got hired by the facility. That was kind of rare back then. It
Yeah.
still is, really. But
Absolutely.
now the training has evolved so far. I think every top team has a pretty legit guy, you know, helping them out, or they have, you know, they have access to a pretty legit strength coach, which was not the case. Because when I
Uh-huh.
came to Extreme Couture, there was no coach. There was, you guys did Randy's
Well,
barbell
yeah,
circuit that
because
was written on
Randy,
that board.
yeah, because Randy, I think, was actually at one point was the strength coach for University of Oregon or something like that. So he knew something and knew enough to put together like the sixes. He put together a plyo workout. Like
Yeah.
we had these programs that were written down, but we weren't doing things like timing our workout and like seeing if we were actually completing the workout in a, you know, faster pace or anything like that. So it was programmed, but it wasn't meticulously dialed in individually, like from a holistic perspective for each athlete. It was more of a group, team conditioning type of stuff. So
conditioning is the key word there. You guys were doing a ton of conditioning work. There
versus,
wasn't a lot of strength. There was no
I see what
strength
you're
development.
saying. Yeah. And so what do you think the importance is of strength development for an athlete versus just doing conditioning work?
Strong body is a healthy body. If you can be
For
strong
sure.
and be mobile, you're going to alleviate the risk of injury.
For
So
sure.
that's got
Yeah.
to be the backbone of it. My philosophy has always been injury prevention first, athletic performance second, and it went actually further towards that mentality the longer I've been in the field, especially in combat sports, because I was lucky that all you guys were really young too when I first started working with you. So there's a lot more room for error when you're working with younger individuals, younger athletes. There's a lot more room for error.
And what do you
Started
mean?
getting
And what
guys
do
that
you
got
and what do you mean? And what do you mean by that for people who maybe don't understand? How do you have a lot more room for error with a younger athlete?
because you didn't have the mileage on you back then. You weren't banged up. You didn't have the limitations. So for somebody that like me, who was absolutely green
So
in the
basically,
field,
injuries is what you're talking about, right?
yeah, yeah, injuries. Like I had room for error. I wasn't, thankfully, you know,
Yeah.
because I didn't have the knowledge base at the time to prescribe the proper corrective exercises based off what I was seeing with my eyes or different tests that we performed before training.
For sure.
I didn't know that.
Yeah.
So stuff that came around like a few years in, and you
Yeah.
learn.
That's stuff.
And
That's
another
stuff that
thing, volume and intensity. You know, not being. I had an advantage because I was in the gym all the time and I saw sparring, I saw all the training you guys were doing, and then I'm like, oh, okay, I can't cook this guy like in a conditioning session tomorrow. He's not going to
Yeah.
physiologically ready to perform.
For sure. Yeah, and that's something that I'm learning now a lot, working or should I say studying under the Czech Institute. Their biggest thing is corrective exercise. Czech stands for corrective holistic exercise kinesiology. So that's something I've definitely been working out myself to help rehab my body back from all the years of fighting and the injuries and all that stuff. And I think you also had a lot more room for error because younger athletes do recover faster. So even though, you might see them or us, looking so torn down in a session the day before, I remember I used to call you or text you and be like, dude, I don't know if I can even do anything today. What should I do? And you'd be like, well, just come in, do something. Something's better than nothing. And I would usually come in, I'd start my workout, and honestly, I'd end up being doing just fine. And what I can see there is that a lot of the strength and conditioning, as long as it's programmed correctly, can help recover the body and actually be like it creates pumping, moves the blood around and helps move the lactic acid around and get all the fluids, synovial fluid, all the other fluids through the joints, and can actually aid in recovery as long as it's programmed correctly and not pushed too hard. And I remember Nick Diaz, even back in the day, like after hard ass fights, he'd be like, you got to get up and go run and go work out. You got to go do recovery workouts. It's not necessarily about training hard, but you got to work out. And so I think there's the strength side of it is definitely important and can help build people up, but I think it can also help become a recovery tool to help balance the body out, because mixed martial arts is so asymmetrical and not even. It's not all perfectly balanced movement. It's always favoring one side or the other.
Yeah, you got to wake the nervous system up, basically heighten it. And strength training does that, especially like isometric work. But
And
I remember too, and I utilized this actually with a few weeks ago. An athlete that was pretty burned, and I was like, "Come on in. All we're gonna do is we're gonna warm up thoroughly. We're gonna activate the whole body. You're gonna hop in the cold tub, and you're gonna go home.
yeah,
We're talking 30 minutes, and
yeah,
that's it.
and
Wake
that's
them up a little bit and go home."
yeah, and that's something that I learned too, working with the Czech stuff, is learning how to work in. Everybody's good at working out, especially athletes that want to overachieve, but learning how to work in and recover and get the yin to the yang, if you will. You can actually, it's like Tai Chi. the term working in. He uses sort of the scientific explanation of working in as exercise that doesn't increase heart rate and doesn't increase perspiration. So you're not, like you said, you're not, exciting that nervous system up too much. You're just moving things around, and then like you said, getting out of there, going home, because Dr. Quiet, or that recovery time, is so important, and most athletes don't realize that. And it's something that I had to learn, and like learn to focus on, and not let myself get too stuck in the like, no, you got to suck it up and you got to go, and I'm sure you remember Rosendo, my boxing coach. God forbid, you got to love boxing coaches. They just want you to train, and just run you into the ground. Cause you go to fight, it is kind of like a war. So, but he would always just try to, like, didn't matter what he saw. He would say, if I didn't see it, you didn't do it. That was his thing, like, and that's the danger side of having too many coaches, I think. And maybe strength and conditioning coaches that are not watching your sparring and not fully involved in a holistic perspective in your program. And that's where I used to, if I had to, I would tell coaches like, hey man, I'm my head coach. Like, you're the strength and conditioning coach, you're the boxing coach. Like, but sometimes I just need to fucking rest, like, and that's
but I
what
think it's also important though that you assemble a team that everybody can have conversations and work
yeah,
together.
for sure. Yeah.
Egotistical individuals in your corner, because
for
that doesn't
sure.
work either.
Yeah, for sure. 100%. You have to have that check and balance, and everybody has to learn to work along. Like, coaches have to learn to work together and not be like, oh, I'm better than that coach. Or like, no, everyone has,
or you're more important.
You're more important, or whatever it is. Like, no, everyone's opinions need to be, taken in, and the athlete can make the decision or whatever. It doesn't have to be one person versus another. And I think that's like a young mentality. And I got taught to be selfish from some of my coaches, specifically Rosendo, but sometimes it pays off, but I think it can hurt us in the long run. If we're always competing, that can hurt us, and that we have to get past that immature competitive mindset and learn to collaborate and learn to work with each other. And like,
that's hard though.
Yeah.
The sport, especially like Vegas, was hard because of, we all trained,
just egos, man.
Work together under the same roof.
Well, you're fighting.
There's a lot of coaches that came in and out that didn't work with certain people. Like you had, like you're saying, you had your own boxing coach. I always worked really well with him. Like,
but that's unfortunately, that's like each martial art culture, each amateur sport culture has its own like weird thing, and like, and that's just how boxing unfortunately is. It's like, in the classic, I get from what I know, classic boxing gym, like there's the gym owner who's usually some old salty guy who doesn't really give a shit about money as long as, he makes enough to keep the lights on. And then you have like 17 different coaches that are, having their fighters. Then you've got 5 different managers, and you got 5 different promoters, you know what I mean? Like there's, and there's like fights in the gym. Like it's, it's crazy. Like, it's, the fight world is a crazy world. And, from what I know, it started off as being a sport of respect, actually, and people with money only could afford to do all these sports and have all this equipment. And then people that didn't have a lot of money learned that there was a way for them to fight their way out of poverty, and they could actually make a difference in their life using fighting. And that's where I think it changed. And you saw the sport change, and then the people with their nose in the air started looking bad at, oh, they're just fighters, whatever. And now I think it's come back full circle, where everyone now is like, oh, it's so cool again, and let's throw a bunch of money at it. And like, you see a bunch of people thinking they can buy their way to the top, but it's unfortunately, you got to find that balance. It takes some money to build the team and have the right coaches, but you also got to be hungry. And, as you see with people like Conor McGregor, they get too much money in the bank, their success in the cage doesn't start to match up to their hunger anymore, or rather it shows that they're not as hungry anymore, and I guess even myself, I cannot lie that, as I got more successful and had a bunch of fight of the nights and my bank account was full, like I wasn't so focused on, I didn't really care if I won as much. I just wanted to go have fun, have a good performance, and whatever happened would happen. Like, I knew I wasn't going out there expecting to get hit and get beat up. And I think a lot of people are doing that nowadays in a negative side of fighting. Like, oh, I'm just going to show how tough I am and get all marked up and scarred up. Like, when I think of like Mike Perry, who comes to mind, like just trying to be too tough. Like, no, obviously you have to be tough to fight, and you're going to show your toughness as you need to, but like, don't like get hit on purpose. Like, like,
Yeah.
So yeah, it's just interesting.
The sport, though, I mean, like 2007 was definitely a lot more raw. Like even the
Oh yeah.
atmosphere at the tours. I mean, a great facility, good coaches, and all that, but it was still pretty raw. Not many guys were making like good money.
Yeah, it was definitely
They weren't,
very,
and
they
we had
weren't. When I first
like
started, I got
how many
told that.
guys were in the UFC? We had a ton of guys in the UFC, but a lot of guys weren't really getting paid that well. It's
Yeah.
not like,
I'm not gonna lie, I feel very fortunate to have made, the money that I made and to have the success I did. But yeah, it's the rare story that people make it and make a lot of money, and like, I don't have a lot of money now. Shit, I'm definitely just like the everyday man, like I was before I fought. I was blue collar guy figuring it out now, like doing my coaching thing, and yeah. So the majority of the stories is people don't make it. There's, I met so many awesome people, great people, but they moved to Vegas with the dream of being a fighter, and the next thing you know, they're just working at the nightclubs, and they do other things. And I'm gonna be honest, it's probably a healthier route. If just a little message to all the young fighters out there, if you really are trying to fight to get money and get girls, like, there's a lot of other ways to get money and get girls that you don't have to get beat up and get scarred up and feel pain for the rest of your life. Like, I grew up with the saying, pain is temporary, pride lasts forever or whatever. Like, no, pain can last a long time. Like, that is not true. So, there's a number of fighters out there that have dealt with a lot of crap, myself included. I'm sure you can look it up. You don't need to go into all the negative injuries, but I guess maybe we should go into a couple of the injuries. You know what I mean? Like, because you helped me rehab back from one knee surgery, I remember.
Yeah, I remember that.
And a couple of things that I wish they would have told me back then about rehabbing back from injuries and surgeries is that any surgery is going to create some nerve damage in the tissues, and B, there's going to be a lot of scar tissue that you got to deal with. It's not necessarily just because a lot of surgeries, they handle the symptom, but they don't always handle the cause and the effect. And then you also have to recover from the surgeries. Like, my knees still aren't the same. I've had 3 different, meniscus surgeries. So, and tore my ACL 50% across one time. Never had surgery, but apparently it healed on its own. But what do you think are some of the, I guess we'll tie 2 questions together, because I was going to ask you about strength lifts. What do you think, are some of the important things to do when it comes to recovering from injuries for MMA athletes or anyone in general? And what are 2 like the most important sort of strength lifts to keep somebody strong and a healthy body?
Well, for as far as coming back from injury, depending on the injury, and obviously listen to your doctor and do the rehab, go to somebody good, go to a good surgeon, go to a surgeon that's going to put you in the right type of rehab afterwards. And depending on the injury, do it all the way through, like they say to. I've saw so many times over the years, guys being like, it'll heal on its own. And I'm not going to mention names, but there's some bigger name guys too that
I did it.
that they could just walk through.
I did it. Yeah. And honestly, some of the doctors tell you that. Some of them they don't tell you, like, honestly. So like, you think that's the right thing to do. Like, oh, I can just walk out of here. Oh yeah, you'll be fine. Just go back doing your normal thing. Just avoid the pain. Like, what? Okay, cool. Like, but go ahead, sorry.
Yeah. So I mean, listen to the doctor. Find a good one, listen to him, do the rehab as you're supposed to, all of it. And don't start going full speed again until you don't run before you can crawl, right?
Yeah.
Don't rush things. I get it. Like, money's on the line. Like, you have to compete. You want to compete, you need to get paid, you need to pay bills. I totally understand. But Jesus Christ, don't shortchange yourself on skipping out on rehab and screwing yourself in the long run.
And here's what I can say is why, from personal experience, because the body will compensate. if the core is the master compensator, this is what I've learned. The core is the master compensator. And if you push things, your core will literally figure out a way to get it done, but it can also pull your spine out of alignment, and you're going to have this like funky spine that's not feeling good. You're going to be in a lot of pain. And that's really what happens is you start creating these compensated patterns that lead to so much pain in the long run, where although you might get back on track and get things done in the short term, in the long run it is going to hurt you. And that's where I've seen the corrective exercise can help sort of put people back in place and start to rehab that. And maybe somebody who's got an issue where they want to like push too fast and get back to competition, they need a corrective exercise program versus like some strength and conditioning program that's going to keep making those problems worse. Like, at least
yeah, like using you as an example, you were coming back from that knee surgery. We did a ton of unilateral work. We did unilateral pushing and pulling with the lower body. You didn't do anything on 2 feet for a long time because of the compensation, right? So I think it goes with any injury. You got to single it out. You got to attack it like head on, and
right on.
Not if it's a knee injury, don't put the person on 2 legs right away, because they're going to compensate. It's not going to heal correctly.
Makes sense. And then so what are 2 like strength exercises you think the most important exercise? And it can be more than 2 if you want, but what are a couple really important strength movements if somebody wants to have a strong, healthy body like you're talking about, either they're an MMA person or just an everyday layman? I think that everyone, with the way the world is nowadays, everybody's basically expected to be conditioned like an MMA athlete to get shit done. I mean, whether you're a single mom, doing all the chores and doing whatever, like, man, your life is your sport. So I think this goes across the board for everybody. But MMA athletes obviously
benefit. to pick 2 or 3 exercises, it'd be tough. I have to sit there and think about that. For one comes to mind right away, obviously, but how about 3 types of movements? You got to push, you got to pull, and you got to carry.
Okay. Push, pull, carry. I like that.
Pushing and pulling with the lower body, right? An example, any type of squat movement is your push. Any type of pull movement is a deadlift, an RDL. It could be on 2 feet, could be on 1. There's a lot of variations, right? And then same thing with the upper body. Your pushes, your presses, whether you've got bad shoulders, lay on the floor press. Military, I don't go behind the head of the bar, but we do a lot of dumbbell pressing. Military, standing, seated, kneeling, all different variations, landmine variations.
Why don't you go behind the head with the bar?
I don't like it on the neck at all. I don't like it. I don't like the feel on it for me, so I don't expand like a lot of.
It can also
limitations too.
Yeah, I can force the forward head posture too.
I just don't like it. I don't know. I used to do them when I was younger, but and limitation wise, dumbbells are just a lot more forgiving for that movement. But I do a lot of landmine pressing though too.
Okay.
Different kneeling, split stance, on 1 knee, 2 knees, standing, split stance, standing, single arm double. Just safe. I mean, you
for sure
need to put yourself at risk to gain strength, right? That's the last thing as far as like, not to like go off the topic here, but I don't want to put anybody at risk of injury to try to get strong. There's a lot of ways to skin a cat. A lot of ways to skin a cat.
I have a new definition for the acronym ASAP, as safe as possible.
There you go. Yeah. That's what we were training for, right?
Yeah.
How many times have you like hurt yourself working? I've done it so many times. Like catch a hang clean the wrong way, jar my back. I'm gonna be 40 years old in October. Do I really need to do that? No. Do a kettlebell swing. It's a hip hinge, whatever.
Yeah, and if you love this type of exercise, you might be addicted to stress, because that means you love the risk of getting injured, or love the whatever. So you gotta be careful. You're gonna burn your nervous system out. I'm not gonna lie. I still spar with young kids every now and then. I do things I probably shouldn't be doing, but I definitely am. I stopped doing, silly things with heavy weights. That's for sure. I don't do it on purpose.
I don't do anything that hurts me or anybody else. That's my. But I love carries. I love farmers carries. I like farmers carries, suitcase carries, overhead carries. I love like the combinations of carrying.
There you go.
That's true strength right there. That's
For
true
sure.
functional strength.
Yeah, that's like
Like him.
strongman stuff. I grew up watching strongman, and like I used to
Yeah.
love that shit. Like I
We didn't do a
actually,
lot of that when I was in Vegas. That didn't click for me until about 2013. We started carrying a lot up here in
I,
Florida. We did.
well,
And
we're doing
um,
that with MMA though, so it's all good. You're carrying
yeah,
each other around, you know, like that's something we used to do
I
in wrestling, buddy carries and all kinds of
body
stuff, you
carries.
know,
Yeah.
like yeah, like that again, that's that functional strength. Like
I
um,
love putting them in conditioning circuits
it's
as
the
well. I love it.
transverse movement or whatever. Like that's what I realized that kind of stuff is, that most people don't get that movement in a gym, you know, even just squatting, deadlifting isn't that transverse plane. So I think that's
Yeah.
what that carry stuff is, that transverse plane that really helps um, coordinate all the sling systems or whatever that are going through the core there. But yeah, I
Yeah.
like
So
that
to
push, pull,
summarize that
carry.
answer, push, pull, and carry. Push
But
and
yeah,
pull with your upper and lower body and carry.
yeah, push,
That's
pull,
right.
carry. It kind of goes into the checks. Like they have the primal pattern movements that you have to do. You know, push. It's like similar to exactly what you said. You know, it's pushing, pulling, rotating, hinging, uh, gait, and extension. I think maybe is the last one. I might have missed one, but oh well. Either way, it's, you know, it's something like that. But I used to only think there was like four. You know, like squat, hinge, push, pull. I used to only think there was like four movements, which are all like on that sagittal plane. They're not like that transverse plane. You know, and that rotation and that gait, that is the most important thing, and that's what carrying can help you with, is that rotation and the gait. And that's what a lot of people are not doing these days with like the, you know, sedentary lifestyle, whatever. Everyone just sitting in chairs and then going to CrossFit or whatever. But I guess CrossFit gets a little gait and carrying in there. But gotta be careful. That's where you can get into that competitive mode. I remember I
Uh
went to
huh.
the CrossFit gym next to my gym, and it was fun. I'm like, oh yeah, it's kind of good rehab, get lots of reps in. Until I went there one day, right? And I get partnered up with this guy, and he's like, we got to beat my sister and her husband over there. And I'm like, oh, competition mode. I got brothers, and I'm like, oh yeah, let's do this.
Yeah.
Same thing. I end up tweaking my back or something. You know,
Of course.
I'm like, oh
Yeah.
man, it was fun. It's like I hurt. You know what I mean? Like everything's fun until you get hurt. So
Yep.
as safe as possible. That's my new acronym for ASAP. Like slow down, as safe as possible. If you feel like you're losing your balance or someone's gonna get hurt, slow it down. Slow it down.
Yep.
Like speed and power. Like I guess it goes with strength training too. It's like speed and power comes with repetition and time. Like just be patient. Like you'll get stronger later. Like you don't have to force to get strong now. Then you get hurt, because then you guess what you don't get to do. You don't get to be strong anymore. You're gonna be hurt. Right. And when I had my nerve damage, that was the most like depressing and frustrating thing, was I wasn't strong. Like I literally like couldn't bring my hand to my mouth. That was like it was the worst thing in the world. But I'm glad that I'm back now and can do a little bit of what I could do. Like, um, so yeah, injuries, no fun. Got to make sure you take it slow, do your rehab properly. Unfortunately, my neck surgeon didn't tell me I could do anything. He's like, oh, there's nothing special you can do. Just do whatever. And I'm like, all right. Part of me also didn't believe him, so I overdid it, and I learned that you never train to failure. Make sure again you follow the program. Don't just try to overdo it, because training to failure is gonna take you. Overtraining is real, basically, right? And
Yeah.
if you overtrain, it can take like 3 to 4 weeks, maybe even longer, for your nervous system and the tissues to have the rehab and the recovery time it really needs to get back to actually performing and growing and gaining and getting back into the anabolic phase of growing tissue and healing, versus catabolic of just breaking down. Because if you didn't know it, that's what happens when you exercise. You break down your tissues. You actually create a little bit of scarring. But with the right rest and recovery and nutrition, then things are going to heal properly. Um, I guess that's a good segue into what I was going to ask you about was, what are your thoughts on like nutrition for athletes, and how has that changed over time? I know I've changed my thoughts and opinions about nutrition and eating for, over many years. It's changed. It started in the beginning where I realized the GNC supplements were kind of crap, and I just tried to do natural food, to learning to get away from gluten, to et cetera, eating 100% organic now for 100% recovery type stuff.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, organic foods for sure, meats and everything, but lean proteins, organic fruits, vegetables. Try to avoid your inflammatory foods, foods that promote inflammation. You got to try to steer clear of those. And just like strength and conditioning, I think nutrition within the sport has definitely evolved because there's been a lot of nutritionists involved now working with fighters. Mike Dolce is not the only guy anymore. So there's a
Right.
lot of guys.
It was
But
nice for him when he was, though.
yeah, I'm sure business is still good for him.
Yeah,
But
yeah, for sure.
um, there are a lot of
At the
guys.
end of the day, honestly, if I'm gonna be honest, for all you coaches out there, like making it and being a coach in the big leagues and coaching all the famous people, that's not really where I mean, although you might make some money there, at least for me, I realize that's not where the money and the like real um the real benefit is for you as a coach. You're gonna get a lot more soul rewards by helping just a regular person who doesn't get any fame out of it. Trust me, it's really weird. We get sold on this. You need to be in the spotlight. You need to be famous. You need to be this, that, and everything. You might need to get there to get the platform like Dolce did and now be successful. But like
It helps.
yeah, it helps. But
But I'm also
there's
a
so
firm
much.
believer that he's good at
Yeah.
what he did. He's good at what he
Oh yeah,
does.
exactly.
He
Those
can be
people are gonna be
successful
successful at
either way.
anything. Yeah. It's
Yeah.
just like me, just like you. Like, yeah, you're gonna, be successful for sure. I think I cut you off there, but
No, I'm just
nutrition,
saying,
yeah,
like,
your nutrition, you're saying it's changed a lot over time. And
yeah,
yeah, 100% organic stuff's good. And well, oh yeah, lean protein. I know for myself, I noticed I really like the fat because it's really good for hormone production and like I feel like it's good for my brain. But I do notice, and what I've learned from my studies is that too much fat can create a lot of inflammation in the joints actually, and just create like stiffness. Not actually inflammation. It creates stiffness. It creates a lot of stiffness in the joints. So something I've also noticed, and I'm like, oh man, it is actually true. I am more sore if I eat too much of the fatty steak versus eating a little bit leaner steak. Like, so you got to find that balance. And
you wouldn't have felt that when you were 25 years old, though.
right, you're just raging. Yeah, your hormones. You don't
Just,
even need
yeah,
that. Honestly, you don't even need as much steak when you're 25. That's what I've learned. Like, I eat so much more protein now to like try to recover than I ever had to when I was younger. It's kind of crazy. I'm like, why is food so much more expensive? I'm like, no, I'm actually eating more food. Like it goes both ways. Food's a little more expensive. Let's not
it
lie,
is.
but,
And
but
organic food is
oh
obviously you
yeah,
pay
yeah.
more.
But like I just noticed like eating in general, I'm like, I need way more food than I used to. So yeah, that's definitely something too with recovery. You got to eat a lot of food. And when you're training hard, you got to make sure you're eating to keep that anabolic state going versus breaking down. And yeah, if you're getting sick in camp, that means you're just probably not eating a lot. If you're losing too much weight too early, you're probably not eating a lot. So you got to find that balance. And I know I used to do it really bad and starve myself. I got obviously a lot better throughout my career and dieted down. And that's where actually dieting became kind of easy. But yeah, too much fat's not good. I actually was eating too much carbs. I remember you helped me with that. In the mornings, I was crashing because I was eating too many carbs in my breakfast and getting probably too big of like an insulin spike or whatever. And then you just burn
Feeling
out.
sluggish. Yeah.
Yeah, yeah. So you got to find that balance with your diet. And then I studied the Czech stuff. They have this primal pattern diet that teaches like basically there's three different types of like diet types from people that, depending on where you're from around the world, and equatorial type, polar type, or a variable type, which is a mix. And like, yeah, one of them's, more a little bit more fat and a little bit more protein. And then the other one's like a little bit more carbs, a little bit less fat and protein. Because I guess if you're from like the equator areas, where there's more plants and fruits, you're going to be naturally eating off of that stuff. And people's, I guess, guts, they have like a longer digestive tract from all the plant stuff. And people from like the polar regions with like Eskimo stuff, they eat more meat and fat,
Yeah.
and they have like a shorter digestive tract because they just you don't need it. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
cows
Interesting.
cows have four stomachs. They need all that digestive tract to freaking break down that stuff and turn it into muscle. Like
Yeah.
whereas like Eskimo, they eating meat, the meat just turns into meat easier. So I guess if you're looking at what's the best diet out there. The reality is everyone has their own sort of individual makeup, because most people are mutts these days. And like, I noticed for me, some days I want more fruit than others. Some days I want more meat than others. Like, you just got to learn to listen to your body and trust that awareness. And I guess that can be the benefit of all the tracking and tools, but you got to, learn to trust your intuition, trust your awareness, and what feels right for you makes you feel better, perform better. And yeah, I definitely have to admit that too much fat isn't great for my joints. So if you're recovering and sore out there, maybe get that lean protein in you. Yeah, I know we spent a lot of time in Vegas. And where are you living at these days? And what are
I'm
you
in Boca Raton, Florida.
and what are you doing for work? Are you coaching athletes? Are you coaching? What's going on?
I am on the side. I got a
Okay.
handful of athletes I'm working with. I know I don't Instagram, so nobody knows what I'm doing. I
Good.
don't do.
Hey, you finally escaped, right?
I'm sick of all that shit on social media. I just don't put anything up anymore, except my daughter once in a while. But I work
I'm
at
trying to. I'm just to be honest. I'm trying to work back towards that as a goal. I'm like, I'm using it now. The UFC kind of like forced us into it, and I have that platform, so I feel like I got to use it a little bit. But I'm definitely that's
I
my
get
goal.
it. I mean, I
No,
get
but that's
totally
my
get it.
goal. Like, I'm like on a mission to like work away from that and just live in real life again. It's like that. It's just so weird. It's like, yeah, it is what it is.
Yeah, I get it. That I get asked that actually frequently. Aren't you working with anybody anymore? I'm like, yeah, I am. But just because I don't put it on
Right.
Instagram or whatever, you don't
I
been
remember my
doing
mom
anything.
said one time something about, if it's not on social media, it's not real. And I was just like, oh my God, this world has got her conditioned to think that everything has to be on social media. I'm like,
I
oh
think
my God.
everybody before they post something should take 2 seconds and be like, does anybody really care? Should anybody really care what I'm about to say right now?
Right. But yeah,
Because
at the end of the
chances are
day,
they don't.
social media is about me, right? It's just this big ego thing. It's all about me, 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 me.
Mm-hmm.
And knowing what I know holistically, if you really care about social media, it's a more feminine thing. It's a more yin thing. So, man, you're being too feminine. Jake's obviously a masculine man who doesn't need any social media approval.
I've had
Healthy
I used to get
masculine man.
messages sometimes too. I used to get messages sometimes too, like why don't you show you know,
Yeah, well,
examples of so and so's workout or whatever. Like I'm
why
like,
don't you
no,
be what I
why,
want you to be? Like, it's like
no, I don't want to, and I don't have somebody with a camera following me around either, so I can just make a video. And I'm not the type of
right,
dude to like be like, hey, can you film me real quick? And it's not like
right. No, yeah, you're definitely, that's one thing I liked about you. You're all about that work, and you're sort of simple, blue
no,
collar
I
guy.
hated it when
And
when the UFC would come.
oh
I hated
God,
it.
yeah,
You know that.
yeah, your
I hated it.
face would turn so I loved it because you would stop people from interrupting my workouts. Like, I hated
It
when
pissed
other
me
people
off.
interrupt my
Like I'm here
workouts.
to
I'm
do
like,
my job, and
I'm
the
trying to
clock
focus.
matters,
Yeah, the
rest
clock.
periods matter.
Yeah,
Like
exactly.
get the hell away from me.
Yeah. So if
Bad
you're
enough that they would turn off all the music, shut the lights off, and everyone set up the camera. It used to piss me off so bad.
yeah, so if
Like
you're
I'm getting
training
mad
out
even
there,
thinking about
right? I know, I know. But yeah, if you don't think the rest periods and the breaks matter, it freaking matters. Like, honestly, you have to train your nervous system to compete. That's what I'm trying to teach these people. I'm helping some people at Omni Movement now, some MMA fighters, and like you have to like drill and do whatever you want before sparring. But when it's time to work, you have to 5 minutes, 1 minute rest. You have to train like a freaking machine, because that's how the TV works. You want to be in the big show. That's how TV
it.
works. The
Mm-hmm.
fucking machine. They run the clock, like, and
Yeah.
you got to be on time, ready to go, baby. Like, and that's how, being an athlete really is. You're kind of you're performance artist, right? You're like kind of like a singer, kind of like a comedian, but we just do different things. You know what I mean? Like, you got to show up, you got to perform, and you got to train for that and practice that. And you need the right environment, the right setting, and the right coaches and the right trainers if you expect to have a desired result, and that's the holistic truth, like right there, from knowing what I know now and what I experience with you. It's just simple. Every once in a while, if the big camera has to come, you're the main event person, like, you got to do what you got to do. But I used to remember always thinking, I'm like, I never want to be the main event. I don't want any of this drama. Like, let me just work out in the corner. God damn it. Like,
I used to feel bad for guys having that like going on like during their workouts. Like, man, this is work here, you know. This is and you are a distraction. You and your camera are a distraction. You
Right.
know, it wasn't like Randy, Jesus Christ, he was hounded like all the time. Every fight was a big fight. So
Yeah.
like he like God, have to deal with that all the time. I mean, I guess it comes with the territory, but Jesus.
No,
You
yeah.
just I think annoying for everyone else.
Right. Simple life. That's definitely the goal to happiness. Again, the
But
spotlight
yeah,
can be
I
good.
am,
It can make do things. So yeah, you're training people, you're working with
yeah,
people. Are you doing
I
that?
am.
You're doing that locally in Florida? Are you doing
Yeah,
it
at
doing
Fort
it
Lauderdale, XPE Sports in Fort Lauderdale. Yeah,
nice.
they got a great facility run by Tony Villani down there. And we're also
So if
last
somebody wants
fall.
to train with you, do they reach out to XP Sports? Do they reach out to you, or
I
you're
mean, I
just not you're
guess you
not
can
putting
message
anything
me
out
on
there?
Instagram,
All right, there you go.
whatever.
Even though he's not going to post anything, he's
No, probably not.
actively going to
Um,
watch. So if you want, what's your Instagram, real quick?
Jake Bonacci at
There
Jake
you go.
Bonacci.
Yeah, if you can find Jake Bonacci, if you really want it, you'll get it. Trust me, he's worth it. The guy's got a ton of experience. He's not some fucking, again, Instagram, motivational coach or speaker, but this guy has a ton of experience. He's worked with everybody that you can think of that came up in the original era of the UFC, all the big stars, and myself included. So his reviews are out there. He doesn't need to brag about it. Um, sorry,
But
what
we're
was
also my job is I'm education director for XPE Scholars. So it's in the XPE building. It's actually upstairs. It's a private
gotcha?
school,
Nice.
and we work with student athletes. So it's kind of like they come to us. They come for education and they come for athletics. Obviously, these kids are driven. They want to become that type of athlete. They want to go pro. They want to do big things in the sporting world. So we provide education, we provide athletic performance training. So that's
That's cool. I wish I would have had that
kind of,
growing up. I wish I would have had
yeah,
that growing up. To
seriously,
be honest, like
it's it's awesome.
I
Yeah,
came from an academic school, but I had a single mom who had, a bunch of other kids to raise. She was doing her thing, and she had a amazing story on her own. But at the end of the day, I didn't get taught or emphasized that my academics needed to be where they needed to be to make it to the next level in sports. In high school, I was really good. I became, top 100 athletes in, Contra Costa County my senior year. And, it sounds cool. I was the only 3-sport athlete, in my high school, my senior year. It sounds cool, but I did the minimal when it comes to academics. I only got 2.0. And when it came to going to a college or anything like that, you're not going to get a scholarship. You're not going to get looked at. So if you're out there and you're a stud athlete, you got to be a student athlete as well. And at the end of the day, I know, the school is not fun, right? At the end of the day, it's not fun, but it's learning how to learn. And once you learn how to learn, man, you can learn anything you want. And I remember I applied myself for one little quarter semester, whatever it was. I'm like, man, let me just apply myself and see what would happen. Right. I got a 3.0, and if I would have done that throughout my whole high school career, I would have had 3.0 my whole career and was a successful athlete like I was. I promise you things would have worked out differently. And now granted, I might not have had a UFC career, and I'm not mad things worked out the way they did. I've got to do some amazing things and meet some amazing people, Jake being included. But again, you got to be an academic as well as an athlete. And I promise you, it's going to make you a better athlete. Like the best athletes in the world are thinkers. They're smart people. They're not idiots, So don't be scared to be a student athlete and find some place like, Jake's got going on with XP, and push your sports and your academics to the same degree, and I bet everything will sort of meet at the top. So
absolutely.
that's
So that's
cool.
that's basically what we're trying to achieve down here.
That's
Grades
cool,
aren't good. There are no sports with us. So
right? And yeah, that's how it works with schools. At the end of the day,
true.
that's
Absolutely.
kind of how it
Yeah.
works with the schools. Your grades aren't good enough. They don't really need you. If I would have got a 3.0, I could have gone to Stanford on a full ride probably. I know it sounds crazy, but like as a good wrestler, if you're a good enough wrestler and you get good enough grades, shit, I could have been going to Stanford on a full ride. Can you believe that? Like, God, what would have been, you know what I mean? And again, knowing what I know now, maybe I'm glad I didn't. I don't want to be indoctrinated by Stanford, culture, but shit, who knows? Who knows what would have happened, right? So
Sure.
just throw that out there for your young minds. You can do anything. You just gotta look into it. So yeah, I think that about wraps up some of the things I had to ask you about and wanted to catch up with you about. It's cool to see that you're still involved with helping athletes, because I know it's something that you love and something that, being in that commercial world, it's not as very fun to do. So it's nice that you found the amateur world again, where things are more pure and, you just do it for the joy of it. You know what I mean? Like, that's where it all started. That's why I started fighting. I did it for the love of the game. Like, so yeah, I know how it is now. Like, as a coach, it's challenging to be in those worlds where there's just so many egos, and it's like they forget. Like, it's like, think about MMA. It's like, wait, this is martial arts, guys. Like, isn't this about martial arts and like keeping the kids healthy and off the streets? Like, why are we fighting and bickering? And now it's like cool to go to jail, and like, you know what I mean? It's like turned into the rap culture. Like, it's like, wait, this isn't what martial arts is. Like, back in when I was in the UFC, if you would have got in trouble with the law, you'd have got fired from the UFC.
Yeah, you got kicked out.
Yeah, that's like what they're going away from.
Now you're popular. Now you
Now
get
you're,
more Instagram
yeah, like
followers. You get
that,
more Instagram followers. You get sponsorship on Instagram.
Exactly. If you don't have enough followers, you don't get the fights. Like, it's so crazy. But
That's another thing too. We didn't really talk about, like, back, in like
yeah, if you got
07,
time, go ahead.
the extreme couture days, like that era, guys weren't getting big fights because they ran their mouths. That's kind of
Yeah.
why I don't watch the sport as much as I used to. You had to, back then you didn't have to run your mouth to like get respect and
No,
get
you
people to
didn't.
want to watch you, and you win your fights and you do a good job and you got fans.
Yeah,
Now
I
it's like
loved it.
everybody's like trying their own. Like, I just can't. I don't.
I definitely like that part about my era, where I didn't have to run my mouth, for sure. But
No,
man,
you won fights, you climbed the ladder, and you got bigger fights. And you got more exposure. Like,
yep,
that's the way it should be. I guess it's different too, though. Then there wasn't a show like every weekend.
this
It's a
is
lot
true.
different too. I think it's
This
harder
is
for
true.
guys to stand out now just by
This is true.
performing too.
This is true. It was
So,
definitely just a whole different vibe. It's got industrialized. The fight game got industrialized, so it's kind of like, I mean, you look at, I guess, no, not every sport's like that. No, I guess every sport is like that. Every sport kind of got industrialized, and it got to the point where there's just so many there's like different leagues now. You know what I mean? You have the minor leagues of baseball, you got the minor leagues of basketball, or European leagues, or whatever it is. There's just all these different levels, and that's just how sports are, man. There's just so many different levels, just like martial arts. There's so many different levels, and you just gotta be careful you don't get fooled of somebody trying to convince you they're they're at a level that they're not at. You know what I mean? Like, so yeah.
I guess my point is, like, think of like the most famous guys from that era, like Chuck, Randy. They didn't get famous for like running their mouths. They didn't
No.
get famous for winning.
Yeah, you got
know?
famous for winning. Yeah, that's number
Winning
one.
and carrying yourself. Both of them carried themselves the right way.
I think
That's
I think
honorable.
I think Khabib, is like a taste of
Yes.
that. You know what I
Yeah.
mean? That's why I like
For
training.
sure.
I trained with Khabib. I helped him for the first couple fights. He fought some guys that I
For
fought.
sure.
So like, yeah, like that era, or that mindset is still out there. I think it just comes with wrestling. You know what I mean? I think it's Colby Covington is not a good example of that because he's a wrestler, but he's just
It's just too much.
he
All
decided
that
to wear
stuff.
that hat, like that's just, and again, he's paying the bills. It is what it is. But that's the entertainment side that apparently, is just
It's
popular
required now, I think, to
Yeah,
make that next tier of money. You can only make so much being a good champion, a humble champion. But if you're a total asshole,
yeah.
you can sell
It's
fights.
like
Guess what?
WW.
Now you're a peer.
It's kind of like WWE now. It's just gone so extreme. It's like
Yeah.
very interesting. There's a lot of people that
That's
go.
why I think that's why I like looking back at the history of fighting, like boxing mainly. I like reading about the fights from the 20s, the 30s, or whatever.
Yeah,
That guy, they were fighting because they wanted to fight,
yeah,
and it was who's better. I was just reading about Harry Greb fought Mickey Walker, 1925, right? Harry Greb had 298 fights in 13 years.
And
He was a
back
middleweight champion.
and
1925.
back then they didn't have. I think in the 20s they didn't have round limits, did they?
No, they did.
Oh, they
They
did.
did. They went 15 rounds.
15 rounds. Yeah.
They fought 15 rounds. Then they saw each other in the club in New York after that and fought again. Like
Oh,
that's a different.
that's fighting. That's a
Yeah.
different world for sure.
Yeah.
Oh
Yeah.
man. See, the UFC
They weren't doing that for Instagram followers.
old school UFC did that. They had the Tito Ortiz, I guess, incident with was it Lee Murray or something in England. Like, yeah, exactly. That's how it went down. Like, hey, you want to fight? Hey, we're gonna fight if I see you again later. Like, all right. But I kind of like that about MMA. At the end of the day, in boxing, whatever, it's like, what are you going to do after you fight? You really want to fight again? Well, maybe somebody didn't win. Like, well, when somebody wins, usually there's a level of respect there. You know what I mean? Like,
Yeah.
but yeah, the old school game was definitely different. I definitely love learning about all that stuff back in the day. I used to watch old school boxing. You guys want to study martial arts, man? Study the old school stuff. Study the old school boxing, old school kickboxing, old school jiu-jitsu. Study the old school stuff, and you're gonna learn a lot. Outside of just how to entertain and run your mouth in the cage, like, because you got to back it up, man. The number one is the product, and the product is winning. And like Khabib showed, if you can win and you can build the right team, and hell, you can have an undefeated career and do it safely without getting injured really bad. Like, I hate to say it, but that would be the dream route right there. I didn't have
For sure.
I didn't have a father. His father's kind of like a customato who just like molded him into being that.
Yeah.
And now he's trying to figure out life. You know what I mean? Like, he's like, now what am I gonna do? I guess I'll run this organization and eat real good. Like,
yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Khabib was always about putting in the work, man. He was very disciplined, putting in the work all the time. But he wasn't perfect either. I remember I used to ask him every time I saw him in the gym, like, hey, did you pray this morning? Because I knew he was supposed to get up early and pray. Sometimes he wouldn't make it, before the sun got up to pray. But I was like, all right, he's not perfect. I'm like, all right, cool. He's human. Like, it made me feel better, And that's the thing, man. No one's perfect. We're all human, but we got to learn to collaborate, work together. And I think we got to try to keep these MMA teams together, because a lot of the American teams got broken apart, unfortunately. But it is what it is. The sport's changing and growing, and it's cool to see you coaching and helping amateur athletes. At the end of the day, I think those amateur athletes have no idea what
coaching some guys in the big show.
Okay, my bad.
Because I didn't put it on Instagram doesn't mean
okay, my bad. Okay, how about let me get back to then coaching people in the big show. I'm thinking about this for me personally, because I have some fighters that I'm helping right now. Are you interested in like helping write programs for people that are like working remotely, like where you could write a program for a fighter for me and I could put him through it or something like that? And
yeah, I do that all the time, actually.
Nice.
I do that all the time. I've been doing
Nice.
that for probably 4 or 5 years now.
Awesome.
It was actually cool because I connected with people literally all over the world, like writing programs for people like in Abu Dhabi, Kuwait, Afghanistan. Like, it was crazy. Like, people that would hit me up because of I worked with different guys, like they would see. But again, like, I just like between the two gigs right now and my 3-year-old yelling at me through the sliding glass door right now, like, time is of the essence.
Well, then nobody else bothered Jake for this, but I might bother Jake for this then.
Yeah, you can.
Right on.
I did for you. I wrote programs for you a couple years ago.
Yeah, you did for sure. Yeah.
Yeah.
No, but I'm just saying for an athlete, for somebody else now, because then it would take some of the, because I don't have necessarily, that's not my main focus. I focus on the corrective stuff and other stuff. So like, I know that you'd be better at it than me. So if I could have you,
it makes sense for like certain situations like that. Like,
yeah, because I know your exercises and all that stuff.
You have a knowledge base that can administer it, but like, I don't know. Like, writing these programs blindly for somebody I don't really know is not really okay. It's just not thing really. I'll do it, but
it won't get the results. I understand. Like, knowing what I know now from holistic stuff, you just won't get the results. Like,
I shot like 500 videos in Extreme Couture like 4 or 5 years ago for this, like 30-second clips, quick demos, and like dialogue on them. sweat my ass off in the gym that day. It was like 110. You know how hot it gets in there.
Oh yeah.
I'd knocked that out in a day, and then I ripped them up to YouTube, and I was doing the whole thing. But honestly, I'll do it for the right situation, but
So
I'm
what you're
not.
saying though, in general, how'd that work out for you? Investing that time doing that. You think
It
that was
was
worth
cool.
it?
I mean, but it's time. That's the thing.
Yeah,
Like
yeah,
it was cool, like connecting with people I would never have met before. Like I'm saying, like I'm Skyping with somebody in Abu Dhabi. That was really
for
cool.
sure. Yeah, that's
You
what
know,
I'm
but
trying to push myself, and I'm doing more coaching online too. I had to with the pandemic stuff, but yeah, I'm definitely like trying to do that because it's cool to help other people, like you said, and just connect with other
it
people.
is.
And like you said,
The
sometimes the
UK
right.
too. The UK was hot. They
Oh
were.
yeah,
I did more programs seriously for the UK and Brazil as well,
they need it.
because
They
of like
need it.
Vitor.
Yeah,
Because of
okay.
Vitor.
Yeah, word
I
of
guess he's
mouth.
a big deal over there.
Yeah, I guess he
Yeah.
is, right? All right, man. Well, pretty cool, man. Well, I'm glad you're still working with some people in the big shows then. I didn't mean to downplay your level of your work because
No.
I know you're definitely able to work with anybody, you know, and take them to the highest levels because you got the experience and the passion to do it. So yeah, it's cool to
Yeah.
catch
Well,
up
I'm
with
glad
you.
to see you involved as well and like kind of going off on a different path and using that passion in a different manner, helping people. So that's cool.
Yeah, I kind of had to, but also like when I was in junior college, I studied like I got into the kinesiology program. That was something I realized I wanted to do. Like I wanted to figure out a way to always stay around sports and be able to be involved with that. So yeah, and you know, having my journey in MMA, I feel like it's kind of my responsibility to help the next generation if I can still, and my body's still strong enough to do it. So might as well do that while I can. And yeah, I got my big recovery ranch plans, trying to do that because again, I realize what we really need to recover from all these crazy MMA injuries, man. You need good air. Honestly, that's the biggest thing. If you don't have good, clean air for your nerves, that's what's you know, that's the element connected to our nerves is the air. So you need good, clean air. And in the city, unfortunately, even in this room right here, you know, unfortunately, there's not good, clean air everywhere. So, you know, you got to get good, clean air. That's why it's important to get up and get early, get out moving before all the cars and smog starts, you know, if you're in the cities and exercising. So, yeah, got to get that good, clean air to help these nerves heal for me. And I think that'll help other people heal too. So awesome to catch up with you. And maybe
When you
we'll,
get your ranch set, man, I'm coming. I'm coming on a mission trip.
awesome. Sounds good, man. And maybe we'll have to do this again and make it a
Yeah,
regular
for
thing.
sure. And you ran into my brother, huh?
Oh yeah, I ran into your brother in Walnut Creek. He was training. I'm like, why does this guy look familiar? Why does his face look familiar? I'm like, oh, okay, yeah, yeah. He recognized me too. I'm like, all right,
Yeah.
small world, man. That's what I love
Uh,
about MMA, man. Like I call them MMA brothers. Like, and I got some MMA sisters, I guess too. But yeah, man, it's just it's a bond and a connection that just it's I guess there is some blood involved, you know, like, you know, but I was going to say yeah, it's like a family, you know what I mean? So yeah, it's cool to run into your family members and everyone's family in MMA, as long as you're doing things right. There's the next generation right there. What sport's she playing?
we don't know. We
Oh
don't know
yeah,
yet. She's only
whatever.
3. Yeah,
Yeah,
whatever. Gymnast.
there you go.
Right?
Yeah, that was the
Gymnast.
first thing I did. You know, I look back at my career, I was like, man, what sport did I do first? And I was like, oh, I was at the gymnast class at the aftercare program, dude. I actually have a foundation in gymnastics. No wonder I'm not bad as an athlete. Like, you know,
Yo.
and like, yeah, it doesn't have to be anything crazy. Don't put them in some specific sport. Just let them learn how to move and build that awareness for sure.
We just got our trampoline, so
Just
the
don't be a
gymnast career just started.
just no lifelong gymnast, you know. That's a little bit unhealthy. That's like worse than wrestling, you know?
Yeah,
Just build that gymnastic foundation, then you can do whatever, you know, like
right.
but yeah, that's cool, man. Yeah, I guess gymnastics and martial arts are like the most complex movements that create the most neurological connections. So you make your
Yeah,
kids
makes
smarter. You
sense.
make your kids smarter too, parents. Don't be scared to put them in sports. They're not going to become some dumb jock. They're going to become smarter. So academics, get your kids in sports. Your jocks, keep your academics, you know, right. You got to keep that balance. You know what I mean? That's really what it's all about. Got to be the most balanced athlete to be the most successful, and I dare say to be the most balanced to be a great parent. So I'm going to catch up with you later. And thanks for sharing all your stuff.
Yeah, we'll do it again sometime. You take it easy. Good luck with the ranch, and I definitely want to see it when it's complete.
For sure. I'll definitely let you know. All right, Jake. Talk to you later.
All right, man. Take it easy.
Bye.
Bye.
Put on our shades.